Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and I'm rolling the dice on this one because this was a great book. I really enjoyed it. What book was it? It was definitely Champion's Quest Book 2, The QUESTMASTER'S Trap by Frank L. Cole. Now, I read the first book in this series right when it came out a couple of years ago. I had read the first book in Frank Cole's Potion Masters series, and I really enjoyed that one. So then I had seen that the Champion's Quest Book 1 was coming out, and I was super excited to read it because it was more of a fantasy world than Potion Masters. Potion Masters is the kind of book that takes place in the real world, but there's a fantasy thing going on, kind of that no one else knows about. So kind of like that Percy Jackson sort of idea or Fablehaven, where there's this whole fantasy thing happening that no one knows, but it's in the real world. This is a portal fantasy series where these kids have stumbled upon this shop that's a game shop. And the main kids love this game called Champion's Quest. And so they get pulled into this game because it actually sucks them in and they are playing the actual game. And they have to roll dice. Everything pauses for them as they have to roll the dice to see what happens next in the story and what weapons they can get, their armor upgrades, all those sorts of Dungeons and Dragony kind of stuff. So this series is a lot of fun. Now, I think there's only two books because this one came out a couple of years ago, and Frank Cole, as far as I can tell, did not release another one. And he wrote a different book that's coming out in a whole different series from Shadow Mountain this year. So I'm a little worried that we're not going to get a Champion's Quest Book 3, which I'm super sad about. This book series really reminds me a lot of M.L. Foreman's Adventurers Wanted, which is probably one of my favorite book series of all time. That series is a similar kind of idea where there's this kid who gets pulled into this fantasy world where he is going through like different quests and has to accomplish these different tasks and things. And so this book reminded me a lot of that series. And I just want more in this world. I'm not going to lie. I really do. So in the last book, the main characters, Lucas, Miles, Jasmine, and Vanessa, got pulled into this world. They did not know what was happening. Were kind of learning as they went. So they got pulled into this world where they are playing this game. And literally as it starts, everything does freeze. They have to roll the dice to see what happens next. Like what's their opportunity? What's their weapon they're going to get? Are they going to get a special upgrade for the battle that they're in as they face off against all kinds of fantasy monsters, from centaurs to giants to squids to all kinds of things? And so they are going through this journey in book 1 and they don't really know what they're doing. So I was excited for book 2 because I thought, okay, now they know what's happening. We know a lot about the world, so we can only go deeper now into this world. And what's interesting is in this book, Vanessa, the older sister of Lucas, is not part of the story. She appears at the very beginning and then does not come on the quest with them, which I thought was interesting and a good idea because Vanessa's character in the last one always kind of bordered on a little bit annoying. She did not want to be there. She was much older than the other kids that were in the game, and she kind of had an attitude of like, I don't want to be here. I don't really want to be doing this, but I do care about you, and I'm going to help us all get to the end of this quest. So in this book, she's not really part of the quest. And at the very beginning, the three characters, Lucas, Miles, and Jasmine, they get tricked into playing the game again by someone that is a new character that is a great addition to this mythology. And so this new character, I don't want to give anything away about it, but this new character is so sneaky and there's so much that can be done, and you learn so much great backstory about this character and what's going on and where they came from and what they're up to, that it was so fun to unravel as you went along. Sometimes in fantasy books, they can do this thing where there's information that the main characters need to know or should know, and it doesn't get told to them because, oh, I'm just going to keep this a secret from you. You can't know that, so I'm just not going to tell you. And there's no real reason why they don't know the information or are being told the information. It's just because someone feels like they're not ready to hear it yet. And this book does not do that. They find out information about what's going on as it unravels in the story in a very organic, natural way that I loved. I did not think that there was any moment where, oh, what? Like, that doesn't make sense, or you're withholding information just to withhold information. That is one of my biggest pet peeves in a book. I do not like when authors do that. So Frank Cole doesn't do that. He really lays it out well. There are a lot of great twists and turns and a lot of fun monsters and villains that they come up against that I thought, I wish I had come up with that monster. There is a scene later on in the book where they have to challenge against this one monster that is too strong for them to fight. And I feel like Frank Cole comes up with ideas and ways to get through these different challenges that are so natural and are not contrived. You never feel like, oh, someone just showed up out of the blue to help you, and that's really random. It all makes sense so well and is woven together in a great way that I just so enjoyed. So definitely Champion's Quest, for me, this was a great read. One of the pieces of character development that I think is really great in these books is that Lucas, the main character, deals with anxiety. And I think that this is something that is not talked about in a lot of books. I have not seen a lot of main characters of books who deal with anxiety and panic attacks. And Lucas, throughout this book, sometimes he has moments where he deals with these panic attacks that really come upon him. He has no control over. He does not know what to do to get through them. And so I felt like that was such a beautiful thing to add to this character, because it really allows other kids who are reading this book to identify with Lucas and think, wow, anxiety is something that I deal with. I've felt these panic attacks like that before. It gives kids a character to identify with. Characters with anxiety is not something that I've really seen done well, I think, in a kid's middle grade or YA fantasy book. And I thought that Frank Cole really captures that well. He really explores that idea in a grounded way that adds this dimension to the fantasy action that we all want and all the fun that comes from that. It adds this level of just depth that is not there in some other fantasy type books in this kind of genre. I think that Lucas going through these panic attacks really is a way to talk to kids about, this is a real thing. And for kids who don't experience that, it allows them to see it happening in the life of someone in this book that they're reading, and they can then have like an empathy for people who are dealing with anxiety and an understanding a little bit more of it. Not an experiential understanding, but a tiny bit more of awareness about anxiety. So I think that that is a really great addition to this book that is really unlike any other fantasy series that I've seen before. So all said, Champion's Quest Book 2, The Questmaster's Trap, I think I liked it better than the first book. I think I did. I think it was a lot of fun. At the end of the day, I would give The Questmaster's Trap, Champion's Quest Book 2 by Frank Cole 4 out of 5 stars. This was just a fun fantasy book. It had great ideas, some great mythology and world building. It really reminds you well of things that happened in the past, so you don't have to think, oh wait, who is this character? I don't remember anything about them. But it actually gave you that little pieces of information that I think good authors do when they're building a series like this that builds on itself, but can also sort of stand alone. I definitely think to read this book, you have to read book 1. If you read book 2 without reading book 1, you will be lost. But Frank Cole gives you so many great little reminders of things from book 1 that if it's been a while since you read book 1, like it was for me, it was easy to jump back into this world and think, oh yeah, that was that. Oh, that was that person. Oh yeah, that was happening there. So all said, this is a fun book. If you like fantasy series, especially portal fantasies that take place in a kind of a medieval world where there's, Dungeons and Dragons type elements with dice and upgrades and levels and all those sorts of things, this is the series for you. Check it out. Even though there's only 2, the ending of this book is very satisfying. I know that there could be more. There definitely could be more, I think, in this whole series, but the way this one ends, it ends in a great, satisfying way. So check it out. If you've read this book, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep reading, everybody. Bye!